Welcome to the Music Life Social Podcast. I'm your host, Raheem, aka Big Heem.
What it is, what it do. It's General Mills, salute. Siggers in the building as always.
What it look like, everybody? G Wiz in the building, representing West Coast and MLS.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right.
And tonight we have a very special guest with us tonight. She is an accomplished composer, singer, songwriter. She has received 3 2025 World Entertainment Awards for Best Jazz Artist, Best Jazz Album, and Best Social Awareness Song.
Right.
Tonight, we have Andromeda Turre. Give it up, y'all. Give it up.
Yeah. We appreciate you, Queen, blessing us with your beautiful presence and your beautiful energy. So far, so good. We just want to give you a big salute from the General. As always, I like to give thanks. I'm an artist myself. I do dibble and dabble. So I really appreciate your time, efforts, and your talents and sharing it with us at Music Life Social.
Thank you. And I love that you got Biggie up there on the wall. The king.
You know,
Right,
a little enthusiasm. A little,
I love Biggie.
Keep going.
Yeah, because Mills is from New York, too. He's
Are
a New York
you?
native. So.
Yeah. I'm from New York, Strong Island, Long Island.
That's amazing.
Lived in Brooklyn and all that, yada. But it's home. That's home.
Hey,
That's home.
you're from New York. It's Biggie.
The Knicks are doing their thing right now, so we up right now.
That's
You know they losing tonight, though, right?
Hey. Wait a minute. We're about to edit that out. Like, we gotta edit that out.
Yeah. I was like, we can't start there.
Yeah, we will be.
Sorry, I gotta mess with y'all New Yorkers. You know what I'm saying?
You already know.
But anyway, back to you, Andromeda. When we say the word jazz, it's always been about, people expressing, struggle, inspiration, and to me, I think women, they add another element to it also, and it's been a voice of empowerment and changing social norms. What does jazz mean to you?
It means everything that you just said, but it also means like a collective. To me, if you listen to the music, there's so much connection, so much conversation happening on the stage. But I think, as you mentioned, being feminine, being female, and having that kind of energy, wanting to nurture the audience and bring them into the experience as well is really a part of jazz for me. Growing up with 2 jazz musicians for parents, I started as an audience member, right? So breaking that like stage audience line is really, really critical. And I think it's also a history of a social justice practice. It's a big part of the history and the legacy and the tradition of this music.
Right. So with that, with the history and the legacy, how did you find your way to jazz specifically? Because, there are many different genres that you could have dove into and, still kind of do the same thing, be like kind of activists and, have your background involved in what you're creating. But how did you navigate toward the jazz vibe versus anything else?
You want to know what's funny? Both of my parents are jazz musicians. My brother is a jazz musician. 2 of my uncles and 1 of my aunts is jazz musicians. So when I was a kid growing up, I don't think that I realized that there were like other jobs. Being a jazz musician, I was like, oh, like all of my parents' friends are jazz musicians. Like every grown-up I knew was a jazz musician. And so I was like, oh, this is what you do when you grow up, you become a jazz musician. I don't really think I thought about it.
So with that, can you share some of your, I know your parents got some accolades, you know what I mean? And obviously they definitely passed down some of that talent and jewels to you.
Right.
So can you just give us a little spill of your foundation, your parents and everything? And what
Absolutely. We'll start with my amazing mom. Her name is Akua Dixon. You should look her up.
Yes.
She plays the cello, but she was a founding member of the Max Roach Double Quartet, and Max Roach was huge with the civil rights music movement with his music. But she's also played with Duke Ellington and a lot of foundational jazz musicians. She just this year received the Jazz Legacies Fellowship, which is a Lifetime Achievement Award in jazz from the Mellon Foundation and the Jazz Foundation of America.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
But in addition to that, She's
Mm-hmm.
also worked and written string arrangements for Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, James
What?
Brown. The entire Miseducation of Lauryn Hill album, my mom wrote and played all of those string parts. So, like,
What?
What?
yes, that's all
What?
my mom.
So,
So,
They just
so hold
started.
on, hold on.
They
I gotta
just
ask you,
really
what was it like?
recognizing that album
Right,
this year. I think
yeah,
like that Whale album as one of the greatest albums of all times.
and my mom
Basically,
right.
did the strings.
oh my
I
god.
Amazing.
gotta ask you, what was it like growing up in your household, maybe on a weekend or something? Did everybody have their instruments out? Just
Yeah.
were you
Friends,
having jam
cousins.
sessions or whatever?
Yeah, so then if we go to my dad is Steve Turre. He is one of the most renowned jazz trombonists, but he also plays the conch shells. And he's
Mm-hmm.
coming this weekend to play Atlanta Jazz Festival with me as a special
Oh,
guest.
nice.
Nice.
So that's going to be exciting. My dad played with Dizzy Gillespie, with like all of these great people, and they were always at the house, right? So
Right.
I would come home from school, and like Woody Shaw would be sitting in the living room, like hanging out with my dad, or Max Roach would be there hanging out with my mom, or Dizzy's coming over because they have a rehearsal or music to go over.
Wow.
So I really grew up in this environment where the music wasn't just like, oh, we're going to take my kid to see a concert. It was a way of life. And these people were all family to me, you know?
Nice.
Wow. Wow.
Nice.
That's amazing right
It
there.
Yeah.
is.
Um
You've
yep.
actually kind of
Hey.
answered this question already because I've looked up your parents,
Oh,
Steve.
okay.
Yeah, I did research them, and you've kind of answered it already. But would you say you were predestined, pretty much, to do what you do for a living? This was
I
your
think so.
occupation. Yeah.
I really think so. It's so interesting to hear you say that because I'm a mom now too. My son is 5 years old. And
Okay.
when he was 3 years old, he said to me, oh, I chose you to be my mother,
Mm.
which is
Wow.
a really powerful and interesting
From a kid,
It is
right?
interesting.
Hey, I was
Wow.
like, he's 3 years old. Like, you got to believe him.
Hey.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I've always felt like I chose my parents because knowing
Mm.
what I do now and who I am now, they were the perfect people to raise me, to be able to be of service in the way that I'm of service through my music.
Nice,
Nice.
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 Your latest album, From Earth.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that because I know it fosters climate change and things of that nature. How did that become a focal point,
And
or has that always been a focal point in throughout your music, or is it just something that you just recently touched on for this
yeah, I was
particular
gonna
project?
actually gonna add to that because the activism and that, I know it's part of the music, kind of, that whole jazz is a struggle, it's a story, that's like, the basis of, these stories that come about. But the activist part was with that music, with that project. Did it was there any specific things, or it was just part of the whole vibe of the jazz energy, or it's just something make you dive into that activist side with your music?
You know what's interesting is I didn't really have a plan to compose this suite of music. I went to Iceland. This is a crazy story. So my best friend calls me up and she's like, "My husband and I are going to renew our wedding vows this year for our anniversary and you were like my maid of honor, like you have to be there, you and your husband have to come for our vow renewal." She lives in
Mhm.
Nashville, so I'm thinking we're going to go to Nashville. And I'm like, "Of course, I'm
Right.
going to be there for you." She's like, "Cool. We're going to do this in Iceland."
What?
Like who
I was
goes
like,
that?
"What? Okay."
Wow.
So we went to Iceland and I was in a really busy period of like work. And so I didn't research Iceland or anything. Like I just got on the plane and like I'm in Iceland. And then we get there and she's like, "So the vow renewal is inside a glacier." And I was like, "Girl, what?"
Like, I know you from New York, but that's a different kind of,
Okay.
Right.
I needed a coat for my coat. It was so cold.
right. I know that's right.
Girl born in the Bronx in a glacier in Iceland, like was not on my bingo card. So I get there and we're like in hiking down inside this melting glacier.
Wow.
And I'm a very spiritually sensitive person. And I just had this overwhelming feeling from the glacier, like it had a sense of awareness, as if it knew
Mhm.
that it was meeting its own demise. And there was a sadness from that I felt. So I went back to the hotel room and I wrote a song about it. It's on the album. It's called Cryosphere. That was the
I was
first
gonna
song.
ask you about that. I was wondering if that's how you pronounce that, the name.
Yeah, Cryosphere. So I wrote that from the perspective of the glacier. I'm singing those lyrics as
Wow.
if I'm the glacier. Then a few
Okay.
days later, I was at a black sand beach in Iceland, and like the waves were just violently crashing up on the shore, and it felt like the sea was calling to me. And I wrote
Mm.
another song. I saw lava birthing new ground. It was like all of this stuff started inspiring music. And then I
Wow.
came back to New York and I was like, I think I have something here. But I didn't really want to compose a large body of music about Iceland specifically because I was only there for like 5 days.
Right.
And I'm not Icelandic. Like, I don't really know anything about their people or their culture. And I'm like, so what can I do with
Mm.
this music? Because it's really just about nature. And I, like mentioned, I'm a mom. Have always been concerned about climate change. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe I could do something with that. As soon as I started researching climate change, it took that long to discover that the people that are struggling and suffering the most right now, today, because of climate change, are the same people that live in formerly redlined areas, that live in
Mm-hmm.
formerly colonized areas, and
Mm-hmm.
the history of that oppression is doubly affecting them. And I said, I know exactly what to do with this. Jazz is built for this.
Right.
Perfect framework to tell this story. And I just dived right in.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah,
So
let's talk about that.
when did you go on that trip? I mean, like, how long ago does so when you conjured all of this up was after that trip and that? I mean, like you said, once you did that research, you related it back, and
Mhm.
all those feelings and emotions and vibes you was getting from being there.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? I
That was
mean,
December of 2022.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I came back and started filling out grant applications because when I had written the music, normally when I was writing for jazz before, like I would have piano, bass, and drums and like maybe a saxophone or something for four
Okay.
musicians that I needed to hire. There's over 20 people on my album. And I was like
Wow.
writing in a much bigger way sonically than I'd ever composed before. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this.
Nice.
Wow.
So I started filling out grant applications and I was able to
Okay.
receive 3 grants.
Okay.
And that enabled me to finish composing and record this album.
Okay,
Nice.
that's great. And matter of fact, two of my favorite tracks on this album is Grandmother's Permission
Mm,
and Miss Margaret's Lament.
yes.
uh, Grandmother's Permission, let's start with that one
Okay.
because I think some of the words is like we're tied into the earth and to the soil and we value Earth's resources or whatnot. And it's just an instrumental track with, I don't know if it's your actual grandmother's voice or whatever, or if it's just you talking or whatever, but that track right there really, really spoke to me. And
Mm,
for the simple fact that I'm part of a nonprofit,
wow.
and one of our programs is GeoAg, where we take rocks and grow fruits, plants, and vegetables with just water and no soil.
Wow.
So, and because I'm a grant writer also, so it's so yeah. So this really, really spoke to me. So tell me about that track.
So, as a part of my research, what I started doing was reaching out to these communities and emailing nonprofits that I was able to find or student groups or whatever, and just like asking them questions to find out more. And I started conducting interviews, which I recorded the interviews. So, both
Okay.
Grandmother's Permission, which you mentioned, and Miss Margaret's Lament, which you mentioned, as well as 2 other tracks on the album, feature interview segments that I did with people from these communities that
Nice.
inspired the song. So,
Nice.
Grandmother's Permission features Dr. Jafunza Wright Carter.
Mm.
And Dr. Jafunza she's outside of the south side of Chicago. And she has a farm there. So she spends her life with her hands in the soil, right?
Okay.
So she was able to speak from that perspective, but she's also an MD And she
Oh,
uses her food to help people heal their hypertension and their diabetes, and
nice.
providing food to food deserts in the south side of Chicago. She's
Mm,
really doing the work. She lives a completely sustainable lifestyle herself on the farm. And so she was so powerful. And at the end of our interview, I said, "Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that I should know?" And
right.
she started giving me a tempo. She was like tapping on a tempo, and she said, "This is the tempo of the earth." And so that's the
Mm,
tempo of that song. It's the
that's
tempo that
nice.
she tapped out for me. And
Wow.
as she was doing it, she was like humming. She was just humming. So that's why when you hear me singing that song, I start with just a hum.
Okay.
Okay.
I was inspired by the fact that she was just humming. And behind her, that song, I didn't write any lyrics. It just features her words. And I was
Mm-hmm.
inspired by Abby Lincoln, who also did a lot of like wordless vocals on a tune she did with Max Roach called Triptych: Prayer, Peace, Post, Protest.
Okay.
And that's how Grandmother's Permission came to be.
Nice.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was really touching track. Along with Miss Margaret's Lament, where
She's
I think
fierce.
the back, yeah, that background voice across the bay where the kids have to use inhalers or whatever, just like wow, okay,
Yeah,
really on it.
50% of them.
Gotta use it.
50% of the kids in her community need inhalers. And 1 out of 5 kids under the age of 5 end up in the emergency room with breathing problems.
And that was me
Wow.
growing up. I was an inhaler kid growing up. That steroids got me a little bit beefy, and
Yeah,
that was the scenario. Emergency rooms and taxi cabs, rushing, breathing.
it's environmental
Yeah,
racism.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
just
It
crazy.
is. So she's been an activist in West Oakland for her community since she was 13 years old. She's in her 70s now. And she's
Wow.
still
Wow.
fighting that fight. And she is such a powerful woman. And again, I wrote that song. I'm not when I am singing a little bit more, and I did write lyrics, but all
Hmm.
of the songs that feature the interviews, I really just wanted to create space for listeners to be able to hear firsthand what
From
was
real people,
happening. Yes, from real people about what's going on in their communities. Like I
right?
could sing it to you, but it's so much more powerful when you hear
It is.
Miss Margaret's voice, her gravelly voice, because she's lived in this bad air pollution environment her whole life. It's so
Mm.
powerful. I could never like write that.
Recreate
You
that.
know?
Right,
Yeah, for
right.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You've kind of answered this question already. Again, um, what drives your creativity? But it sounds like what drives you is you want to leave the world a better place than you found it. Is that fair to?
Nailed it. I would say that I am just very tapped in. I do enjoy meditation. And I also say that I do like a walking meditation because I'm just very observant. I observe people's, not just their actions, but like just feeling people's energy,
The
Mm,
aura.
their auras. And so that has
mhm.
always influenced my work. So the project that I did before this one was during COVID. And I composed a suite of music that was based on the Japanese concept called ikigai. I lived in Japan for years, so that's why I know about it. Ikigai, if you don't know, means a reason for being. And their
Mm,
philosophy is that everyone's reason for being is a combination of 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs.
mm,
And I always loved this idea. But during COVID, when a lot of people were out of work and a lot of people were rethinking their careers, and there was this tension in the overall human consciousness of uncertainty in the professional realm, I wrote this piece of music to sort of help guide people through a process of thinking about, well, what do I love? What am I good at? What can I be paid for? What does the world need from me? To help them sort of find a new possibility for themselves and find
right.
possibility amid the chaos of COVID. Then I
Mm.
went into From the Earth, and now I'll be starting this weekend a new project in
Oh,
just feeling like humanity really has lost hope. And so I am starting a new project based on the idea of bringing hope to people.
okay. So like with that being said, and with your last previous project,
Yeah.
like you said, you wrote some vocals, but a lot of it was instrumental, and not as many vocals.
Yeah.
So with that whole energy and vibe, it brings me into a thought of how people do. Like, would you be interested in doing creating like affirmation type style music? Because it's kind of what, like you said, not as many lyrics or whatever with music, and it's like a repetitive kind of motivational thing. I don't know, but would you be?
I have a song like that. You can find
Okay.
it on YouTube. It's called Mantra, Mantra. And it's my own personal mantra, which I have tattooed on my back, that
Okay.
I wrote into music to share with people.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
And
Nice.
it's just a very repetitive. The mantra is, I am beautiful, I am free, I am powerful, I have everything I need, I am complete, I am me. And
Nice.
it cycles, and people can sing along, or just meditate with it, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I would totally be open to doing more stuff like that.
Now that song "Finger on the Trigger" that had like more bounce to it.
I have
man,
bars,
like,
okay? Come on, I grew up listening to
yeah, you
music.
had bars on that one. I was like, okay, she flowing on that one. It's like, all right, yeah. I was really digging that track. Also, you know what I mean. So
When you're talking to these communities and these people, while they have a lot of hope, there's also a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it would be an accurate description of environmental justice in this day and age if I wrote this large body of work and I omitted the rage.
Yeah, I was about to say,
You
had
can't
to add
do that. People are angry. People are angry that their children can't breathe. People are angry that they're being poisoned. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're angry.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I took all of that anger and I put it into Finger on the Trigger. What's interesting musically about that tune is it's a modified blues. And the history of the blues is such a history of our people, of, like, you want to talk about our struggles and our pains. The blues came about, if you look at like the timeline in history, right around the time of emancipation.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. True.
And so I wanted to dig into that oppression and that pain and that. So I composed a modified blues for the music portion. And then the lyrics, I'm just talking directly to those people who keep choosing profit over people and planet.
Nice. Yeah.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because your driving force is not necessarily, you don't do this necessarily for profit. You just want to make a difference. The music, whatever comes with that, comes with it.
I definitely wasn't thinking like, oh, I got to write a radio track and it needs to be this many minutes. Like, I knew 100% when I had written Grandmother's Permission that nobody was ever going to play that on the radio. But I knew that the right people would find it, and you did. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a snapshot of our world and our history. And in 100 years from now and 500 years from now, if people want to know what it was like in terms of environmental justice living on Earth in 2022, 2025, that album is giving you an accurate snapshot of what it is. And you're right, I didn't go for like what's popular, what's going to make me a lot of money or make me famous, although I do have to eat.
Right. Now, from this album, you were able to expand upon it and turn it into a multidisciplinary gallery exhibit.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that experience and how that came about. Or was that something that was just spontaneous, or or what?
With the new innovation, how everything is, people trying to make NFTs and things like that.
Yeah.
With their music and, it's just new technology. Like you said, this 20 to 25, it's a lot of different things going on. But yeah, could you expand on share with that?
Sure. So I had done so much research, and you can't put everything into the music or it would just be too long of an album and too boring of an album, because I did still want it to be pleasant to listen to. But there was a lot of information that I learned researching this that I was like, people need to know this stuff. And so I collaborated with a bunch of visual artists, painters, photographers, sculptors, video artists, to put together a gallery show that would sort of share a lot more of the research that I had done. And so we even had like interactive pieces. We made it not child friendly, but inclusive for kids. Nothing is written in such a crazy way that like a young person can't understand it.
Right.
And we repurposed like an old carnival wheel that you can spin, and like we tried to make it really engaging. There's a guided meditation room,
Nice.
and the
Nice. Wow.
music of the album exists in this gallery exhibit as like a sound installation. So you can still hear the music that I wrote for the suite, but there's 4 sections, just like there's 4 sections on the album: Earth, Sky, Sea, and Ice. There's 4 sections to this gallery show that take people even deeper into the research and the things that I learned when I was putting this project together.
Wow, that's nice. Now, how long did it take you to for this exhibit and everything to take place or whatnot?
I got a grant for that. I got the grant in December and the gallery show was in April.
Oh, okay.
But there were a lot of artists that I knew that were working in these realms anyway. So Shaniqua Benitez is one of them, for example. She is an incredible painter, visual artist, and she had a whole series on redlining that she had painted. And some of the paintings had like the asthma inhalers featured on them and things like that. And so I said, hey, Shaniqua, like, can we incorporate to help tell Miss Margaret's story? Because you already have this painting with like the inhalers and stuff, and it's so powerful. And she was like, of course, like, I got you. And so I was able to, just work with people that I already knew that already had work. So I did more curating.
Okay.
For this, a couple of things were created specifically for my gallery exhibit, and then some things were curated as well.
Nice. Now, you travel around the world, I mean, performing. Are there some countries or cities that you feel that's more appreciative of jazz music than others that you really like? I can't wait to perform here tonight, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I loved singing in Japan. That was amazing. The people are very good listeners and very supportive of the music. And just like Europe in general, there's just more of an audience for it there. I think there's a misconception here in the United States. A lot of people, when I've gone into like schools and stuff to talk to kids about jazz, there's this misconception that like jazz is an elite art form and that it's only for like a certain type of like rich fancy person that you're going to hear jazz. But historically, jazz is the music of the people, and it's about our struggles and our experiences. And so I think I would love to, and that's why I'm so excited also to be able to perform this at Atlanta Jazz Festival, because it's like anybody who's in the park, it's for you. It's free.
Right.
We love free 99.
Oh yes, we do.
And so this suite in particular, maybe a lot of the people that are going to be there on Sunday wouldn't necessarily think like to buy a ticket to come to an environmental justice jazz suite, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to love it and it's not going to be musically accessible for them. Jazz is for everybody, and I think people here don't realize that.
Is there any one main message that you think that you want to bring to people? Is there any narrative that you trying to like through your music that you want to, bring to people or expose them to?
Yeah, I think in addition to the general environmental justice perspective, there's a new song that I wrote just for Atlanta, just for this festival that nobody has heard yet. If they ask for an encore, I'll play it. I wrote an encore. And it just ties into this idea that I was talking about before, like what is human consciousness? What am I feeling that they need right now? And if you look at what's happening in our country right now, a lot of people are scared, they're unsure, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so I wanted to provide safety. Feeling safe is so powerful. And so I wrote a song, it's called Safe Here. And it's an offering for me to just be able to hold space for people, at least during the length of that song, to be able to feel safe in Piedmont Park. And the idea is that anytime they're feeling like pulled around and unsafe and uncertain, that they can return to Piedmont Park and like tap back in to that feeling of safety that I want to hold for them during that song.
Nice.
So when you travel and you play in other countries or whatnot, because I know there's different styles of jazz. There's Latin jazz and Brazilian jazz. Is there like, do you have to adapt your style, or I mean, what's it like when you I don't know, when you approach other musicians or
work with other people,
work with other musicians or whatnot, you all just jam out and just catch the vibe and catch the rhythm. What is that like?
I mean, I'm always me. That's the thing. Like, I'm a New Yorker, so we're gonna be a real one.
That's right. There you go.
I'm always me. I think that if I had been more accommodating, I would be a lot further along in my career. I'd probably be a lot more famous. But I've always insisted on doing my original music. I've always insisted on, you know, presenting things in a narrative sort of form. And so it's limited my ability to do things. But even when I travel, I'm like, this is what we're doing. Like I was in Italy after the tsunami happened in Japan that killed all of those people. And I had a connection to that because I had friends who lived in that town. And I had written a piece about the tsunami and I sang it in Italy. And I don't even know if they understood the words that I was singing, but they.
Hey, listen, what you get.
And I had an Italian band and they learned it.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And the people loved it. The people loved it. I got a standing ovation, right? They could feel the energy of what I was singing about. And I think that that's a very big misconception that a lot of music venues and music promoters have. They think that people only want to hear like what they know and what's familiar. And they have a very limited thinking about what jazz is, that it's a certain set of songs sung a certain kind of way, and that's it. And jazz is limitless.
Yes, it is.
Nice.
It is.
So I wanted. I'm sorry. Go ahead, G. Wiz.
No, I was going to ask about, we mentioned travel and the vibe that people get from you when you sing and things like that. Is there any one aspect of what it is that you do about the jazz that's really the most filling, or is it just it's pretty much just everything? Everything is just rewarding in and of itself.
I think the whole package. It's being able to communicate with the musicians that are on the stage, which a lot of times are like local musicians that I'm just meeting. But if we know the jazz vocabulary, then we're able to have that conversation on stage. It's just feeling the energy in the room and meeting it and trying to, you know, help people navigate through what they're feeling and take them out of what they're feeling. I think that's a real service of any genre of music, right? Like, tell me that you haven't had a moment where you're like angry or frustrated and you put on your favorite song and it instantly puts you in a good mood.
Another mode.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that is such a powerful thing about music, that it has this possibility to shift people's emotions. So whatever it is that I'm doing, I try to pull people out of their world for that hour or whatever that they're in my presence.
Nice. What I was going to ask you was about have you ever did any work with your phenomenal parents, or are y'all like, that just sounds like, I mean, is that anything, is something that could possibly be done or have been done already?
So my dad is on the From the Earth album. He's playing trombone on Miss Margaret's Lament. He's playing actually all the trombone, but he's trombone on Contigo. He's playing his conch shells on some of the songs. And my mom is singing on the last song, on Critical Mass. My mom sings in the choir. I would love to do a bigger collaboration with my mom, though. Like, she's the GOAT.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, yo, she got to be on the cover.
Yeah,
make sure, you know, we got to make sure that sounds like yes.
Yeah, we got to do a collab.
Now you did 13 original jazz songs for Lena Lessons from a Lady, a musical celebrating the life of Lena Horne.
Yes.
What was that experience like doing that and creating those songs or whatever? What kind of zone were you in to create those original
That's
pieces?
legendary.
Yeah.
First of all, shout out to Lena Horne, because what a queen.
This is what
Yes,
I'm
she
saying.
is.
I've always
Yes,
been a
she is.
fan. I had a poster of her in my room when I was younger. And she was a big civil rights activist. And I was asked by Cindy Winters, who's an amazing vocalist and Broadway star. She had written the story and she needed the music. So she asked me to write the score and the original songs. And I was pregnant. And she was like, I got this grant. We're going to put it up at Baltimore Center Stage. And I was like, that's like 6 weeks before I'm due. And I was like, okay. And so I wrote the music. I was like pregnant and I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And then I had to go to Baltimore and music direct the premiere of the show. And I'm like, my back went out. At one point they had to like drag my mattress in and I'm like conducting the band from a mattress on the floor.
The back went out.
Oh man.
You know,
listen,
my son was a very large baby. And so we got it done though. We got it done. And she is just also like so inspiring. So much that I learned about her, but like one quick story that I'll share. She was hired to do a USO show to go sing for the troops overseas during the war. And when she walked out on the stage and she looked at the audience, the Black soldiers were seated all the way in the back behind the prisoners of war.
What?
The disrespect. What? You know what Miss Lena did? She got off the stage, walked into the audience, and sang the entire concert to the Black soldiers in the back with her back to everyone else.
I know that's right. You feel me?
Wow.
Gotta love it.
Oh,
gotta love it.
Okay.
Queen, absolute queen.
Yes. Gotta love it.
And I was like, she's amazing. Like,
that's a chess move right there.
Yeah.
Everybody up here playing checkers. Lena was like,
yeah, exactly.
Right. So, what's in your future endeavors? What's in the future for you? Music. I mean, because it seems like you're into a lot more than just music. Because I see that with the art gallery and things like that.
TV, and music,
video games. Doing scores and everything. So what's in the future for you?
I mean, I'm really just starting to tap into this project about bringing hope to people. I will have my microphone at the festival this weekend and I'll be asking people what brings them hope. And so that I'm just starting with like collecting information, like what is everyday people that I just meet around Atlanta, what's bringing them hope right now. And so if you see me on the street, come tell me what brings you hope. And I'm really hoping to build a album of music around that and be inspired by what people have to say, but also create a book. That people can have of like what's bringing them hope. So yeah, I always kind of think in a multidisciplinary way because I want to reach as many people as possible with whatever the message is that I'm trying to bring them. And so music might be the avenue for some people. Some people like jazz. Some people might just want to read. Some people might want to go to an art gallery. So I don't know. This is the very beginning stages of this new project that I'm working on. And so we'll see where it goes. But I can tell you that whatever it is that I'm doing, there's going to be that undercurrent of purpose.
Nice.
Now, I have a quick question. These guys don't know this about me, but throughout middle school and up to my sophomore year in high school, I was in show choir.
Really?
And yes, I was a bass. Maybe you can tell now.
Yeah.
But athletics took over, and so I chose athletics over that. But do you have any advice for anyone who's got the creative bug for, let's say, jazz or just music in general?
Have you ever skittle, scattled, scat pack? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Nice
know,
cat. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
freestyling, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is freestyling. Advice for young and upcoming artists. I would say learn more than one genre of music. Don't
Okay.
Mm,
limit yourself to being a one trick pony. Even on my album, even though it's technically a jazz album, there's
Right.
Latin music on there. There's songs that sound more like pop songs on there. There's songs that sound more like modal jazz or more like bebop. Like there's a lot of different
Yeah.
kinds of music. If you can only do one thing, then you only have that one stream of income.
Okay.
mm.
That's
So
Yeah.
actually nice. That's very
I
good.
am primarily a jazz artist. That's where my heart and soul lies. That's where my creativity lies. But
Right.
like you said, I've written music for video games. I've
Yeah.
written
Yeah.
music for television. I've written music for film. It's like
Hmm.
I learned all these different genres because I didn't want to be a starving artist.
Right.
And
Hmm.
there's a big misconception like you don't have to either be Beyonce or be a starving artist. There's a lot of gray in the middle where you can earn a good living as a musician doing what you love to do, but you've got to have those skills. Don't
Let's
just
get
be
it.
a singer or a rapper. Learn to produce, learn to mix,
Right.
learn to market,
Right.
learn whichever one of those things interests you so that you can diversify your portfolio and have more streams of income.
Right.
That's
Multiple
good advice.
streams.
That's good advice.
That's
Um,
very good advice.
tell the people where they can find you online
And
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 where they
let us
can
know when
purchase your
you're
music.
performing at the jazz festival.
Yeah,
The
and the
time,
time that you're
the
performing at the
time, and
jazz
you
festival.
know, and then of course you're where we can find you at.
So please, please, please come and see me at the Atlanta Jazz Festival this Sunday, May 25th. I take the stage at 7 p.m. I'll be hanging around afterwards. I'm also going to be attending the festival on Monday because I want to see Diane Reeves sing. She's one of my favorite singers. And
Right.
so I'll be around. I'm easy to find. I'm on Instagram mostly. So that's at Andromeda Turre. You can also find me on my website, AndromedaTurre.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm not on Twitter or X or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty easy to find. LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's what's
Right.
up.
Right.
Cool.
You don't have a common name, and
Yeah.
I
so
am the
somebody.
only Andromeda Turre in the world that's Googleable anyway. So
Yeah.
as long as
So
you
that
spell
part
my name
you're
right, you're going to find me.
gonna find it.
Cool.
Yep. That's right.
Well, look,
That's
we
right.
definitely appreciate your time that you take the
So
time out of your busy schedule, to come on here and and to spend some time with us and talk
appreciate you.
about your music and
Yeah.
everything. And we definitely going to support you. Any
Mhm.
upcoming
Yeah, you
projects
have
that
two
you
fans.
have,
Yeah, any upcoming projects, anything,
contact
we got
us.
musiclifesocial.com. You need a little article, a little
Yeah,
I
link to your
appreciate
whatever,
right.
this is what we do
Yeah,
here, Music Life Social. This is really what we
yeah.
do.
This is
We
so
love that.
definitely contact us, man. But we definitely appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, I hope to see you in the audience at the Atlanta Jazz Festival. And if you're there, please find me and say hello.
we
We sure
will
will.
do. Yes.
Andromeda Turre, y'all. Give it up. Give it up. All right. All right. All right. All right.
Stand up, New York, stand up.
New York!